It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Muttering for it. Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
I love you.
I know.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Hello and welcome to another episode of your favorite movie wannabe snob podcast. That's right, the How to Be a Movie Snob podcast. And we have three super wide awake, not headache at all, hosts this evening, morning, whenever you choose to
Fresh
listen.
faces.
Fresh faces, new places. Coming to us from the lovely
Land of Ryan.
Seattle suburb.
Hey, that's me.
It's Pat.
It's bad.
Hey, look, it's Pat. I can't believe we haven't made that reference yet.
We did.
There we did.
No.
Done. Okay. Moving on. And our next host is from the sunny land of Dallas,
Oregon.
It's Mariah,
Hello.
Uriah, Viraya, Mariah.
Yeah.
No, you're Mariah. You're Raya. My Raya. I've been there.
No,
There's some good in
Mariah.
that.
I thought it was good. And coming from the land where the magic happens, formerly the last dry town west of the Mississippi, folks. My name is Seth here in Monmouth, Oregon. Come by. You can't buy a shirt that says even when it's raining, it's dry anymore. But that was definitely a marketplace special T-shirt growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Even
I wish
when
I'd
it's
been
raining,
old enough to
it's
appreciate
dry.
it.
Guys, guess what?
This is a
No one's going to say what.
This
Are you?
is a doozy.
No, yeah.
Do we guess?
We're not helping.
Are we guessing or we just say
Do I
what?
have to participate?
What? What, Seth?
You know,
This
this
is a
is
seminar.
not starting well, guys. I'm not gonna lie.
Forgot.
Do we
This-
need to do some like warm up exercises? Whoop, whoop.
I think I didn't start drinking early enough.
Well, did you start like
I
a?
have to pregame slightly.
And that's what the reason, folks, is because this week's movie is a doozy.
And it's
There it is.
I will agree. I don't always agree that it's a doozy.
Yeah,
This
everyone.
one
Yeah.
doozied me.
It's a doozy. No one's really a floozy. Oh, I take that back. There was a one gal.
Oh, there's
With
a
there is
that
definitely
one lady
a-
with the
strumpet.
yeah.
The language in this is incredible.
Yeah.
But this movie that we've watched has influenced countless movies that I didn't even realize this was the original source. This movie has its fingers in all of my favorite movies I've ever seen. Like the top three movies I've watched more than any other movies directly rip this movie off. Directly.
Yeah.
And we'll get into that because
I can't wait.
it's a fun one in a very existential European way.
Mm-hmm.
This week's movie is from not the female actress who I'm about to say, but the director who Mariah's going to tell me because I'm going to pronounce it wrong.
Ingmar Bergman,
Not Ingrid. Okay.
not
good.
Ingrid.
Got
No
it.
relation.
No relation.
Yeah, I looked it up. No
Research
relation.
team, did we get on that?
We
Okay.
did. I got on that the first time I messed that up for a
Of his 9
Google
children, she was not one.
maybe.
Quite
And
a
5
few.
ex-wives. She was not one.
Man, he went through wives like he went through movies. I tell you what. And
During this movie, he was going through a divorce.
I think he could probably say that for half his movies. And this is the first.
Chances are good.
Chances are good. And this is the first appearance in a movie by Mr. Max von
Sydow.
Sydow. I always did that one too because there's Max Verstappen's a famous racer.
Who I think did
so I get
quite a
that.
few with Ingmar after.
Quite a bit.
Yes.
Yes, that's true. Research
7,
team.
11?
Ding, ding, ding. That's correct. We got a win from the research team, Pat. That's 1 point for Pat this episode. He is winning. Just for the record, we now have points.
That he's
By the
done it
way.
before with this guy.
Yeah.
He made more than one movie.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think
he's done it
11.
before with him. Yes, 11. Wow, research team.
That's quite a much.
Ding, ding, ding.
Quite
That's a
much.
point to Mariah.
Well,
we
I
are
said I
1-1.
think.
Pat and Mariah.
No one's checking
Oh.
that fact.
Let's
No,
check.
it doesn't matter.
Wait, hold on.
It's fine.
That is correct. Okay, we got a point
Excellent.
for Mariah.
Excellent.
Okay.
Ding.
So, first thing, we start out with some hot takes and cold brews, because that's right. We start all of these movies with some super hot takes, and we're going to start with the most confused of the three of us, because he looks like he doesn't want to do this at all. So we're going straight to Seattle. Patrick, what is your hot take for The Seventh Seal?
I think my hot take is I liked it more when it was The Passion of Joan of Arc.
You literally have taken so much of what I'm about to speak on. I almost think it's a disservice that we just did The Passion of Joan of Arc. Like, I wish we spaced them out more. And that's not only a good hot take, but I don't disagree entirely at all. Okay, Mariah.
Not entirely at all.
What's your hot take for The Seventh Seal?
Hot take. Pass.
That's right, folks. This is the least controversial movie when it comes to movie snobdom, because everyone's like, yeah, no, it's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of movies that are like, oh, yeah, no, it's pretty good. My hot take is it's not really that. I mean, I get it. He's dealing with death, but Revelation is not really. I don't know. I feel like he's pushing the Bible stuff kind of not quite in line. I get it's death, but you read a lot too many verses used in the beginning here to get your point across. You could have just said like.
I guess my hot take is this is a real doozy.
Shoot.
That's the hot take.
My hot take was also that this may be one of the movies that got people interested in foreign films in the 50s, but really it's not as good as Passion of Joan of Arc, which is crazy because Passion of Joan of Arc was still amazing, and this one is actually way more fun. So to call this one I feel like it's a false Swedish existential film. Every joke I've thought about,
because it's a comedy.
Oh, it's hilarious, and you have you have the Brad Pitt like character who's like whatever making smart comments in the background. Yeah, like, so calling this a Swedish existential movie, I'm just like, I guess, except it's way more fun than Swedish existentialism I ever thought. Like, I always think about
have existential breaks.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, let's take a break to be existential again, and then we're gonna keep going, and then here we go.
Oh, there we are.
I loved that there were the breaks.
Oh, for sure.
They were well spaced.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
That's what it felt. It felt, though, like it should have been just a straight comedy.
Yeah.
See, and I think that's because of our misconception of what we thought this movie was to be. Because I was also coming from Joan of Arc. I'm like, oh, here we go. Another hard hitter. It's going to be tough to watch. And then I watched it. I'm like, oh, there's some delightful moments in this movie. And I'm enjoying some weird, kooky characters. This doesn't feel like Passion of Joan of Arc at all. How is this the Middle Ages? How is this the Black Death?
Yeah.
Yeah, and tis a silly place.
And it reminded me so much of Bill and Ted's and so much of Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
I had a lot of Monty Python
so
vibes.
much.
Very
I got
much
and
so.
even a little, Max von Sydow's best movie of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Do I even have to say it? Strange Brew, folks. First one to pull that one down.
Strange Brew.
What?
It felt like everything to me was just better and other stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Max von Sydow
killed it.
Is a striking man, a cool presence. I dug his movie.
Yeah.
His thing, but he was in not the same movie as everybody else.
Yeah, he was the existential guy.
That's a good hot take right there.
Yeah,
Max von Sydow was not in the same movie that everyone else was. Yeah, that's the best hot take of the movie right there.
Was in a different movie.
Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves, folks. Before we move on, we need to start out with a little summarizing.
Oh goodness,
you got it. This one, sponsored by No one. Unsullied by sponsorship since 2022.
You can't buy us.
You can't buy us.
Well, you can.
But you could try. Please try. Please try. You can reach us at Seth@makeitnomedia.com. Mariah, take it away to some faraway Swedish
heck
existential
I'm
place.
gonna make an attempt, and it's probably gonna trail off as it does
As
each week, and
Sort of established
tangents
in,
will occur. We have a knight, Antonius Block,
The person, not the time of day, just for the listeners out there.
Knigget, and his squire, Jans
the squire.
Jans the squire, who sings poorly.
And he's more badass than the knight. What's up with that?
He's got a lot of
Just
dimensions.
he's lived a
this
hard
one.
life. Like, what? What was this cool scar?
And he had like a bald patch on the back too of his buzzed head.
Can you imagine
He
being
lived a
bald?
life.
Pretty sure
Can you
medieval
imagine not having hair like that? Ugh, Pat.
I mean,
dude.
it's a bummer that I don't have a gnarly scar.
Yeah. Speaking of tangents,
The day is young, Pat.
so they just came back from the Crusades,
Bwah, bwah.
and the knight is saying, "What does it all mean?" You know.
Try to see what sound effects we have for this.
Have I done anything
Hey!
meaningful?
No, that didn't
Yeah.
work, did it?
That
No.
didn't fit. But yeah, what else does like so he happens upon
Well, we gotta start with death. Why is death visiting him?
Yeah, they're laying on the beach
As you do.
and he's laying there with a chessboard and death shows up and he's ready for him. And
I hear you play chess, Death.
and he he's
Well,
like,
yes, I
hear you
do.
play chess. Let's play, for my life, my soul, whatever. And they start the game, and then all of a sudden, the story keeps going somewhere else.
Very
A new
Scooby-Doo-ish.
story starts,
Without the wavy
and you're
parts.
wondering, did they finish the game? What's happening?
Yeah.
No,
They're
they
taking
didn't.
long breaks.
There's a pause.
We actually paused the movie. I watched this with my dad. We actually paused it and rewound it to figure out the verb he used, whether it was past tense or present tense, saying, I played the devil chess or I'm playing the devil chess. And he said, present tense, continuous.
Okay.
I'm playing chess with the devil. So
Yeah.
then I'm like, oh, okay,
Well,
we're in the middle of the
Did he say
game.
the devil or did he say death?
Death.
Well, now, I don't know.
It's death.
It's
didn't
death.
think
Did
he
I
said
say the
the-
devil? Did I say the
No,
devil?
you
I
did.
did not mean the devil.
Which might have made more sense in some ways.
Well, just
than
because you
Yeah.
were
'Cause he
probably
made
like
it-
me.
because he
Religious
made a
overtone.
deal with.
Obviously, we also played The Devil Went Down to Georgia immediately in the background for the rest of the film. So that's what we did on my side. I don't know if the rest of you guys.
Still wasn't the devil though.
it was just
Oh,
death.
you're right.
No, just death.
Because
He was in a bind.
there was questions of, is God real?
Yeah.
We know death happens, so death is a presence.
Mm,
But in the movie, it was like, but is there more?
yeah.
And I think that's the big existential crisis.
He's got some
Quite.
inner turmoil. And
But apparently he's heading home, which we don't know till very late.
Yes. No.
That's
I had
where
no
he's
clue where to
actually
go
heading.
see his wife.
it's the medieval times.
Everything takes a while.
And timeline wise, it doesn't completely and totally fit into the events happening, like
No.
the plague
There's
and the
anachronisms.
Crusades, and
Yeah.
they're a couple
Flagellants.
100 years apart.
Yeah, whatever. And the flagellants.
Technically.
Well, the Crusades was there's like 8 of them. So come on. There really was. It was
Could
a
have been.
long- It was a long time.
Could have been the last crusade.
I'm
that he
just
came
glad
back from.
that he came back and ended up on the beach, much like Robin Hood Men in Tights. Like, to me, it just was like, this makes sense. So I was like, okay, historically, probably true then.
Yeah. This
Coming
is-
back from the Crusade, you end
So
up
were
on the
they
beach.
coming off a boat?
It doesn't matter.
Why were
as
they at
long
the
as they're
beach?
on the beach. As far
They already
as my...
had horses. They had 2 horses.
Yeah.
And the horses were in the ocean. I thought, would horses go get into the ocean?
If
Like,
you've
what's there for them? They
seen
can't drink that water.
Frozen 2, it would all make sense.
Yeah.
Their
Well, it
horses
wasn't a magical
come
water.
from
And I think
water,
it was
I'm
a
pretty sure.
Scandinavian kind of country.
Thor definitely told it to happen, for sure. So they're playing
anyway.
chess, and then they go on their merry way.
Yeah. They
They're
happen
heading
upon
to
a
a town.
they happen upon a body. They
Oh, yeah.
that
That was
most likely died of the plague.
100% died of the plague.
Yeah, his eyeballs are all out.
Yeah.
So, a question
Apparently
about this one. Did he not say to the knight because he then was infected by the plague? Or did he not say to the knight because the knight understood what he wasn't saying? Because
Squire, you mean?
Yeah.
wasn't sure.
I think he was just being funny.
See, at that point, we didn't know the Squire was the comic relief of the movie.
I had a feeling he was just being like, yeah, he said a lot with that gaping open, wide, dead face.
He really was the Brad Pitt of the movie. Like, he's the Brad Pitt in Ocean's 11. Like, sitting in the back,
Very
making
sarcastic.
smart comments.
Yeah.
I think he was eating half the time.
Can be a tough guy
And
when he
also
needs to be.
that was a little bit like Shakespearean in like the self
Oh, yeah.
narration
Yeah.
For
of
sure.
what was going on, right? Like these asides to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's so funny. And just the comments he makes in the background
Oh,
are
he
hilarious.
said plenty, but we
So-
don't know where we're going.
So I laughed out loud when he said that. 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm like, but then I was like, wait, is he saying this to hide the fact that he now has the plague? And so that basically they're all dying now because of that.
or is his knight so fragile about death that, he didn't want to bring it up? Like, I couldn't tell
Yeah.
why he said it.
I didn't assume that he obviously had the plague now.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I didn't know either. Although, boy, that plague works you fast, apparently.
The death scene of the plague later is hilarious.
That's
that
where
was
it's like COVID-19.
yeah, exactly right. No idea how it actually works.
Yeah. I went and saw some minstrels, and next thing you know,
Oh my gosh.
I'm a goner.
Okay, I'm gonna take a dark turn here. Everything's jovial.
Excellent.
So in the time it is now, this podcast will not be released this week, but we just had September 11th on
3 days ago.
3 days ago. So
I was going to say September 11th.
the 11th. Thank you, Pat. So one of the videos popped up of like the home, like the videos that were on the ground, like all the people with their handy cams. And I was thinking of how the faces didn't match the situation. Like guys would wave at the camera and smile when there's a building on fire in the background. And of course, then later it would be like, they'd be all screaming but there's also that point of like, human emotions
what's going on.
don't match what's going on.
Well, yeah,
and
the disbelief hangs out a little longer these days.
And so I thought about that
Coping
watching,
mechanisms.
thinking about this movie of that night being just like hardened to all things death and the plague. Because he's like, whatever. Everyone's dead around me. Mm-hmm. This is just what it is. And I was just thinking, like, having emotion, like in real life, we don't actually match what should be going on. Like, and that's real. That always is what happens. Like, people don't have the reaction that they do on movies. It just isn't what happens.
Yeah.
And so I just kept thinking.
Well, I think it's unpredictable how people are going to act, right?
And you don't, and
so it's not
yourself
always-
too. And I was like, oh, the plague was a third of the population or something crazy like that, right? Like everyone had new family. So I just can't imagine how hardened the survivors would be at that point. And coming back from the Crusades, it's just, yeah. And we'll try to jump into this more, the existential crisis, the Cold War's going on, and Ingmar's like struggle with whether there's a God or whether his fear of death too. So all that was going on. But it was just so striking to like watch this movie and then watch those videos and be like, humans don't react right to
Yeah, we're weirdos.
Very bizarre.
yeah.
Very bizarre.
Sorry, that was a very dark turn
Yeah.
from what it was. But that was just, I was like, it became real.
Tangent. Here we go.
Okay.
From the light topic of the plague,
I know.
that really brought it down.
Yeah, from the hollow face that he just encountered. Like, let's get dark now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, the irony is this movie, we're going to talk about it again, isn't that dark. This movie isn't that dark. That's the crazy thing about it.
No, there's a healthy fear among the crowd of the plague and it all being a punishment by God. There's the church, the flatulence coming
And that
through.
was a little bit more like felt.
That was,
Yeah,
it was
dipped into,
dark,
like,
but you're
whoa, this
also,
is
for sure.
you're,
real stuff.
yeah, but also the comedic part in my brain is going, bring out your dead.
Yes.
Like the procession through town and the fact that it's the plague.
So many of those
Yeah.
jokes make sense now. I'm like,
Yeah.
I never got these to the full extent without watching this movie. So now
Yeah.
I can watch My Python and the Holy
Yes, with
Grail and
context.
understand the context.
Yeah, it helped. I'd like to reverse.
Yeah.
I mean, not like our parents would have shown us this first. We're going to show you a really funny movie, but first, you have to understand the context. In which
First, you got to watch
the town.
this kind of funny movie.
Yeah. There are funny bits. Also unfunny bits.
Yeah. Okay. So moving along, finds a town. Have we got to the minstrels yet? Did they find the minstrels yet? Actors.
One of whom sees visions.
They're waking up. It's a little.
That's right.
It's a little trio.
It's a cutaway.
Plus a
it's
baby.
a cutaway scene,
Yeah.
and I was confused again. I'm like, wait, are they gonna? Oh, it's two
Who are
different
these
people.
Yeah.
Okay, got
Cut
it.
to these guys, 3 people sleeping in a wagon. Turns out the baby was sleeping in a basket hanging from the ceiling of the wagon, also, which had no diaper on. Did anyone wonder about that?
Well, just maybe
This baby is just sleeping in a sling above them,
And it's just gonna leak on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, not wise.
I mean, I wasn't questioning the fact there was no diaper. I understand
that
that
makes
was a
sense.
cultural norm thing, but
probably
yeah.
cultural norm in Sweden shooting 1957.
Still,
probably. Yeah.
still. Yeah. So they wake up and the husband goes outside and has a vision of the Virgin Mary walking her toddler
Didn't expect that to be her husband.
in
I'm
the
not gonna lie.
field.
I definitely thought she was going to be the romantic interest for Max.
Yup.
No.
Yeah, but it wasn't. It was her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seemed like too old for her.
Well, and too goofy, and she was like gorgeous. So you had this goofy minstrel guy who actually was a comedic actor. He's famous for being a comedian, which is why he comes across as such.
Sure.
But
But
then,
he had very much like that, just wide-eyed.
yeah,
The world's amazing
yes,
thing. It was just
Kind of like a
tonally, this movie
Buster
just very
Keaton. He was
quickly-
kind of like Buster Keaton. I
Yeah. Yes. Or more Charlie Chaplin.
thought. Or Charlie.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
just
don't like
that,
to mention Charlie because you guys are all Buster Keaton fans.
mean,
Charlie's nothing.
Well, Buster's dour, right? Like Buster never seems amazed by the world.
it's
That's true. That's true. He's never like dumbfounded at all.
Well, Charlie's like,
He was like, "Oh." Yeah. Yeah. Charlie's the little boy.
Yeah.
Creepy little boy with a mustache.
oh, it's truth.
But yet, tonally, and we're never going to get through what this movie's about. It's
No.
fine.
It's fine. It doesn't
Tonally,
matter.
to me, we start with Revelations,
Yep.
which to me, and again, the Seventh Seal, I'm prepped for this to be
Dark.
Deep.
way more.
Yeah, lots of questions.
apocalyptic.
100%.
Yeah.
And then we get to chess, and you're like, okay, that's
Right?
something.
Another deep,
But-
very, very big
Well, and all the
symbolism
times
thing.
that Revelation comes up and people are starting to really feel like this is real and we're all going to go down, they're like in a bar and they just got done laughing at something. And
I love
it's all light
Yeah.
until you're like, oh, yeah, it doesn't look good. And
Doesn't
then they're
look
like,
good.
Yeah.
let's make this guy dance on a table.
What was with that scene?
Like,
And then the wife's blaming him, like, you acted silly again, didn't you? You brought this on
you
yourself.
totally asked for this.
Yeah, you drink
You
too much.
silly
Which-
goose.
I'm
He
a
probably
serious
did,
goose.
I
I'm a
guess.
very serious goose.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, we jump from, chess with death to vision guy and honestly a very modern feeling relationship between the wife and Yoff,
Oh, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
right? In just the way they were talking felt very casual, and it just was like, what is this? And then he's like a juggler. He's the worst juggler I've ever seen.
He
in
has
my
two
life.
balls.
I was laughing so hard. I'm like, how
And
hard
it
is it
just
to learn
kinda
to
went-
juggle 3 balls?
Well, and
how
just
hard?
their performance on stage too. It's the worst
Oh, they're
song and
terrible.
dance
It's bad.
ever.
It's bad.
I
yeah,
don't
it's
know.
bad.
I mean,
She's-
entertainment just wasn't
She's
that
pretty
good
though.
back then, I guess.
She
But
was pretty.
But that was true. I would say though, that's probably true. Think of all these small villages, and I'm gonna have
Oh,
a
yeah. It's not
weird.
Well, I
good.
still think
But
people
you have
have
an
time
instrument,
on
you
their
plucked on it?
hands. They should be able to be good at it if they're going to be up there.
I'm gonna go to the church world here. Have you ever been to a small church that the worship band is less than okay?
No.
You know why? Because I've led
Have you seen
I've
it?
led
Heard
those
about
worship bands. I have been those people who've had the guitar and sang and thought, there must be someone out there who can sing better than I can. But the people who are willing to do it
I was in
often
that
do
small
it.
church and half the congregation was in the choir,
There you
including
go.
me.
Hey, but at least you.
Well,
Yeah. Anyways, I think it was probably more true that poor.
There was no band.
I think poor
But then-
performances were normal.
the head of the troop, midway through the show,
Hilarious.
runs off with a lady. Did he know her before?
No, you
she
missed the
saw him in the
conversation.
crowd.
They were like making doomy eyes during the performance.
But I thought it was,
He
And-
gets hit in
he's
the
like-
face with a tomato and goes out the side door, and she's just laying at a picnic by the bushes and
Yeah.
but,
making
like,
it real obvious.
It felt like he knew, like, kind of who her husband was.
No, he
It
didn't know the
felt like
husband.
there was something.
Okay, the scene before though, he literally says to the other two, he's like, "This is gonna hurt my chance with the ladies. You can't tell me like this because he's the ladies' man. So obviously they have to
Right.
show him hooking up with a lady, Pat. And so he has
It
that.
just- it was
He
very
has
fast.
the
But I
charisma,
thought,
Pat. I
like-
know you're probably not used to girls like flirting with you back. I get it. It's hot. No,
Yeah, that guy
To
really
me,
had something.
he had something going. I'm telling you.
No, he didn't.
his like, but then they just wandered off into the woods for like days.
No, that made sense to me.
Multiple
And it was
days.
like, this
If they
is
had just
fine.
wandered back
That's
out
true.
a couple hours later, okay.
Or like,
I mean, and the
if
husband
he
knew
would
right
come
away.
back to- I thought he'd come back to finish the show.
Yeah. No, he
but-
didn't
You'd be
care
like,
about
"Oh,
his
dear,"
show. He
you
was
know?
the director,
He's
and he
like-
just disappears.
Now, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll find them eventually, and it'll be fine." It's just like, what? She didn't have that much food with her.
Yeah.
The best part is that the husband like expected it and knew it was gonna happen or something. Like he was like,
Yeah,
that was the best. I'm like, not her first rodeo.
They've had problems.
Yeah.
This is not her
The
first.
counseling sessions between Johns and him was hilarious.
Oh,
It's like,
so
you're really
good.
better off,
You're
buddy.
better off, man. Yeah, it's so good. All of his
well,
stuff.
speaking of John, so they get to the village.
Yep.
Kind of. They get to a part of the village that is abandoned.
Oh yeah,
I'm
that's
confused.
before
Where
that
are
part,
we?
isn't there? That's right.
Yeah, and you're like, is everyone at the show? Like, why is there
Matchmaker,
nobody?
matchmaker, make me a match.
And then
Yeah,
there's
that's weird.
Yeah.
a dead woman
Yep.
that I don't know. Did she die of the plague?
Probably.
Was she murdered?
I assume always the plague.
And then we discover, and he's about to assault some poor woman.
Raval. The thief.
Yes. The thief also
who
was a
happened to be
priest.
the actual person who had convinced them to go on the crusade in the first
Yes.
place.
I feel like they really underplayed that. If that was the thing, that in a movie today, you would have spent 20 or 30 minutes leading up to that moment.
I
to
feel
be
like maybe it was one
Right.
of those situations where they cut a lot of his part or the story of his part out. Like,
it was
you
just
know,
like-
he's not that good. Let's just get the
re-
main, the headlines. Like, he convinced us to go on this crusade. He's a bad guy. Let's kill him with the plague in the end.
Why didn't they hit the reveal though? Is such a waste of a good like. And you're the one who did this, and now you're doing this. But
Next
it's like,
time I see you, I'm
but literally, it's like,
branding your face.
hello, new character. Oh, you're a terrible person. Oh, and you did this, and now you're gone. And next time, you're dead. It was just seemed like a waste
and
of.
you're gonna show up the next time as like a really cruel person
Yeah.
in the bar.
Oh, that's right.
Like he's the one antagonizing
Mm-hmm.
Yoff, and you're like, what is your deal, man?
Yeah,
Yeah,
seriously.
what did he do?
Yeah, that was
This
not
has nothing to do with you.
not good character development on that guy for sure.
Also, why any of this
Oh,
in this movie about existential?
first of all,
Because
Dread.
you
First of
need
all, Pat,
breaks. You need to have some
great,
breaks.
great existential question. Why any of this? Why do we do any of this,
Why
Pat?
any-
Why anything?
Why is
that
this-
that is
why is
profound.
this
we should
happening?
hold on, Pat. Yeah, there we go.
It became this very weird, like, we need to assemble this odd band together to venture through the woods.
Please call them merry men.
Well, they needed
I
to
almost-
they needed to set it up so that the night had a meaningful experience, knowing that he was just on the clock here with death. You know, he wanted something, and these are
Pat's
the people
rolling
that
his
gave
eyes
it to
as
him.
you say it.
It just is like, Yeah, sure.
And apparently
So
they get a
here's-
big story to go along with.
So I'm gonna fast forward through like the husband wife. There's issues. He wants to leave with the knight who is also going to take Yoff and his wife through the woods to go to their house so they avoid the plague. And they're like, "Yep, the woods are scary, so let's go with this knight." Then we run across the other two people who'd run off to have whoopee in the woods.
Whoopee.
And they all go, "We're just going to all go together."
Yeah.
After a very, I guess maybe we touch on the slight weird reunion.
Everyone
where,
but the director.
Yeah, where he fakes his own death very convincingly.
Very convincing.
Climbs
And
a
then
tree.
immediately is actually killed by falling out of a very short tree by death.
Very short tree, for sure.
Like, he was like 5 feet up.
And he's like,
Maybe
"Oh,
6.
there's people working in the woods. Hey,
It's a very
this
slow.
is my tree."
Meanwhile,
It's like
we
in
run across...
Austin Powers with the guy with the slow thing to be.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably had time to get out of said
Yeah,
tree.
Let's keep this conversation going. Are you chopping down that tree? Oh, this tree?
We
Yeah, I'm
we
chopping
get
down
a
this
quick
tree.
glimpse of like church house propaganda
Yep.
paintings and
Which
a little
is-
bit of like it's all meaningless.
Which is kind of the whole thing of how this thing started. And
And he's
whole
like, "Well, if they don't
Yeah.
like it, I'll paint something more cheerful." And
hey,
Yeah.
fear sells.
yeah,
Yeah, you could
And then
definitely.
we also get a witch trial of sorts.
Yeah, that definitely was not the same era, but
Yeah.
that's cool.
No.
And then they get to his house.
Well, when was
And,
the
you know,
Passion?
That
Huh?
20
Joan of Arc.
something.
Yeah, like 1920s.
But it was up until that point probably the most well known with a
Swedish movie?
with a Swedish director.
1928. 1928.
Maybe.
But okay, so
Yeah, they're really pulling here.
our knight,
Couldn't nick it.
his whole thing. Well, did we cover the story enough? I know we really didn't. No one knows.
Yeah,
what
so
happened
the
based off
story,
this explanation.
he's on a journey, constantly playing his death. He runs into these minstrels, and then he goes and they save the minstrels from the dancing, then they save the minstrels from, they eat strawberries and milk. That was like the big moment. Big like,
And he's like, "This
Oh,
is
yeah.
so
I'll never
special."
forget this.
Yeah.
fast forward, they end up, he says, we got to do the confessional. He has a confessional with death.
Oh yeah.
And he death.
Like, "Oh, I'm gonna totally get him with this sweet chess move." Oh, it's you. I just told
thought-
that too. What a
He
bonehead.
thought right away, like to me, I was like, "Oh, that's death."
Well, they showed it was death to the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
Well, but I
confessionals
also like he's
actually
basically
hide
looking
better.
through. He's basically just looking at the guy,
Yeah.
and then there's like, "Oh, you're like," it's like, "Come on, bro." Like, that kid is, he did some magical stuff we couldn't see. It was like, you are not, you have bad eyesight.
I thought it was a
That's
double
clearly death.
cross. Like it was going to be like, I actually said that to the devil. Excuse me, death.
Death.
This
On purpose.
crowd. Yeah, on
We're gonna
purpose.
have
So that's
to-
what I thought he did.
Yeah, I was hoping that.
Yeah. But then that's too modern. That's too modern.
Yeah.
So do
yeah,
that,
tricks.
and then he's like, I don't know what the point of my life is. I've done all these things, and then he knocks over the pieces so that the two people can flee. Side note: goofy guy saw death, but wife and kid didn't see death. The kid was very oblivious, didn't say a thing,
He had nothing.
and so
He had nothing.
then they escape. So that's like the one person he saved, and says like, was it worth it? It's worth it. Oh, life is worth it.
But like, that's the whole thing to me.
Yeah.
Like, he saved them. He also got them involved.
Yeah,
And
death
he pulled in.
Death is at
4
one
other
point
people.
saying, "Oh, you're hanging out with these guys and they're going with you." And he's
Right.
like, "Why are you asking?" "Oh, no reason."
No reason. What?
I'm like, is he going to kill
Yeah.
that kid? Like, that's kind of what I was thinking.
I
Like,
assume
that's
He
pretty
didn't kill that
dirty
kid.
death.
It's the plague.
Come on.
They all got it. That's what I figured. That's they all had the plague. That's what I just assumed
Sure,
was the
sure.
story. So
Yeah.
And
but
then
it was like, but was it?
Man, his poor wife. She barely even got a minute and she's dancing with death.
She didn't care.
I didn't.
Well, very faithful. She
Like,
waited and she
I
made
heard
food.
you were coming back. Hey, I'm still here.
Yeah.
take some notes there. Blacksmith's wife. Jeez Louise.
Lisa.
Lisa.
Yeah, we've had our problems. I like that the backstory he gives Death. Like, this is my wife, and yeah, we've had some issues, but we're working through it. Like
It was good. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, this movie is funny.
It was pretty
It
funny.
is.
Many,
Yeah,
so
it
many
really was.
moments.
but not like enough. Which is why I think I kept getting reminded of like Monty Python, because it felt like a parody of itself. Even when they're just venturing through the countryside, I was imagining coconuts and and it was like I thought it was funny because it felt so self-serious at times.
Yeah.
In a way that was funny in Monty Python, but then it'd be actually funny because the characters were kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
But Max von Sydow was going through some stuff the whole time.
Yeah, he's very serious. He's like that emo friend that you're just like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah,
get
and just
off
so
it.
genuine about the bowl of milk, and the wild strawberries.
I'll never forget this bowl.
Play your acoustic guitar and get out of here.
Everybody, the plague is happening. We're all drinking out of the same bowl.
Yep.
This makes
Yeah,
sense.
smart.
Ironically,
And-
his next movie is called Wild Strawberries.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was
Some of us
supposedly
should maybe
like
watch that.
Yeah.
Figure out why.
advertisement or something
Oh,
for
that's funny.
that movie.
That's great.
Mm.
That's next level right there.
They put-
Yeah, I
what's
don't
it
know
called?
if that's true, but
Little egg.
a little foreshadowing.
Before they had Pepsi, this time they just had their next movie in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Now, the other bit that I thought like, well, this could have been something was the girl who everyone thought was, aligned with the devil, who
Yeah.
then really was never denied that. Like she said she was. So that
Right.
was this weird, like, oh,
She was just
okay,
bonkers, I think.
yeah, she's just crazy. And then, like, all he did was, he gave her drugs, like a root, so
but
she
he
wouldn't feel
also
the pain.
understood her immediately. He has superpowers like ability to read people because he's like
Well,
all I
Well,
see
he was
is
like,
fear.
if she's really communing with the devil,
Yeah.
I would like to have a
Then-
conversation with
Yeah.
him. So I want to in.
Which is a good
And then
bit.
he's like, oh, she's totally crazy.
No,
This
it's
is not
just
going to get me
crazy.
to the devil. Hey, lady, I'm
But
sorry.
I thought either he would be like, I'm a Knight of the Crusade, like, this girl's, sick, free her, or, like, they're in town, or we get chance number 2 when she's about to get burned to death,
Yeah.
and it's like, nah.
and
Well,
John's
They were already like, she's not going to live much longer anyway.
yeah, which I
Yeah,
thought
well,
was weird.
She looked great. Like,
No, at
she
the
looked
beginning,
plenty
she
healthy.
looked terrible. Like, because she was laying there with her
He
mouth
looked
open.
more out of it.
And then, at the
But,
end,
like,
she had
she
a lot of
wasn't
clarity.
starving,
No.
And don't forget the line where John's is like, should we fight the guards?
Yeah.
They literally that was like
But he was like, she's already dead.
Yeah.
yeah, like that's an option. And
Which
yeah.
which didn't read to me because she looked like a perfectly healthy young adult.
Yeah, she could
me.
have started an 80s band right there. Like I was thinking,
Yeah.
get a headband
she
on
did
her
We
and a
are-
guitar. Yeah.
Heartache to heartache.
Which
Yeah.
similar, again, the next person we see die, I guess because we don't really see the head of the minstrel die, but we see Plaguey McPlegerson come in and writhe around.
That was
Great
good.
performance.
Great performance.
Excellent. I'm pretty sure that's
And he
exactly
looks
how
fine.
plague suffering happens.
They talked about boils and people ripping their flesh off and whatever, and he was just writhing.
Well, he was in,
and
like,
he got it
fast.
so fast.
He was super
I
fast.
believe it's kind of like there's different variations of the coronavirus. There's different variations of the plague.
Maybe he had a
And then, like-
vaccination.
yeah, he had the
They've
writing
been
kind.
writing.
Maybe he was vaccinated,
Yeah.
you guys. It was a
They've been
mild,
writing for like
but fast.
a long
version.
time.
He didn't have rat plague. He had horse plague. Totally different.
Yeah, of course. Monkey plague.
Monkey plague.
They were far away from town, and he caught up to them, plague-ridden, caught up to them in the middle of the woods somewhere, and was like, "I need water," and then died 2 seconds later. It was just like
I'm pretty
what
sure they
is
were like
this?
right by a creek or a river or something too. It was like, really?
Yeah,
I don't
it
think
just didn't make a lot of sense. And then again, Jans just knows people are about to die. He's like, "No, it's too late for him."
Oh, Jans.
Well, and
And
the
yeah,
mute
sure enough,
girls
2 more seconds.
Oh, we haven't even brought up the mute girl yet.
She's the one that wants to give
But
him
she
the
doesn't talk.
water.
Yeah.
And he was gonna
She's a good gal.
rape and kill her in the beginning.
Well, that was only he said he could have, and since
No,
I
that's
didn't.
John's.
Oh,
But
John's.
the
right,
plague
right,
guy,
right.
she was
Oh,
still
yeah,
wanting
that's
to
right.
give the plague guy water.
No,
and
she's
he
a
was
sweetheart.
real bad.
No, that's true. No, John's is great, very good in the dating scene. I'd say really like, hey, I didn't kill you or rape you. You should do my dishes.
Be my
He's
servant.
he would be a really good mental
I feel like
abuse.
really, yeah, that was
candidate.
good. And then she's like, well, nothing. And she was
Weird times.
She was gorgeous
He had
too.
no life before that.
He's a real
Yeah.
gaslighter.
Yeah, like
of a
didn't she
boyfriend.
have in theory some
Boss.
existence before that occurred that she could have been like, well, actually, my mom's right over there.
Well, her mom was probably the one
Yeah.
face down dead on the ground.
No, that's what I
Like,
assume.
well,
The whole village is dead. I assume.
Yeah.
That's
Well, yeah,
what
I don't
assume.
got family anymore, so yep, I'll
Yep.
be your servant. That's
Exactly
fine.
right. So
she
and
thought about it for a second,
She
and then
did.
she's like, "Yeah, I
And so, like, I guess you've made a convincing argument.
yeah,
I'll be your servant.
yeah, sure, I can
Wah,
cook."
wah. Yeah, so that was a good times. But then John's I believe after that point was like that was the last serious point he had. Then it was just nothing but cracks and sarcastic and yeah, the rest of the movie. Mm-hmm. And then and then
That
even the
catches up to them.
yeah, that catches up, plays a little chess. It's interesting because the only person death actively killed was the tree cutting.
Yeah,
That's it.
that
And
we saw.
so, and it was pretty funny interaction.
Yeah,
So I was kind of
the
bummed.
conversation
Hey, what are you
is
doing
good.
down there?
I wish I would have
Nothing.
written down like all of the quotes from like that conversation and his conversation, Jan's conversation in the bar with Plog, and
Oh, they were great.
it was yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a fun little odd couple situation going on there.
The writing is amazing, and then also like speaking of the director, like let's actually talk about him and not just his
Igmar.
strange story. Is that how long he took to prep for all of the movies and he wrote most of them that he directed, and just spent forever and ever getting ready for this. So like this is all him.
Yes, he wrote it. He wrote
Yeah.
the short story, which is based on. He wrote the screenplay.
Yeah.
He directed it.
And there's like 5 versions I think that got to this point.
The last 2 minutes were
Well-
improvised, by the way. That's kind of fun.
Because of clouds.
Oh, that's
Some
right. They
cool
were like
clouds.
quick.
Quick.
Let's
Dress
do
up the
this.
crew because the actors aren't here in all the actors' clothes, and we'll lead them up this mountain.
Yeah.
That makes so much more sense. I'm like, I can't imagine Max dancing like that on the hill.
No, no.
I literally saw that. I'm like,
You definitely
there's
needed
no way
somebody else.
that
It
side
also
of
looked like they were just getting drug up the mountain. They didn't seem like a joyous
No.
group
No,
to
it
me.
wasn't much of a dance, but
But yeah, Yoff was delighted to see everyone again,
on the plane.
which I liked. So I read that too. Like the last 2 minutes was improvised, but like, was he not going to do anything, or was it just seeing them up the hill? Like, was that whole thing improvised? That's right. I don't understand. Like, to me, seeing him have a vision again
Yeah,
made
wrapped
sense
it up.
as like an
Mhm.
arc.
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's like, was that not going to happen?
Yeah. I feel like I keep wanting to say the devil. Death was basically insinuating that, hey, I'm going to take this family or someone from this family, and it ends up being everyone else because he distracts them and they escape.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's obviously like the one good thing he did in his life or whatever.
And yeah,
but
and
even
he
then,
felt
it's just like,
and he felt like that was the thing. He needed
but all he did, he didn't warn anyone.
He knocked
It was
some
just
stuff
like-
over. And Yoff
Right,
was
but when-
watching, so he got the idea, and
Yeah.
they made eye contact and was like, go,
But Yoff
dude.
was like, we got to get out of here. 'Cause
Yeah.
We're distracted.
And
And then
y-
he like helped a little more with the distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And Yoff,
That's like not a great thing.
Yoff was the only one who
It's
saw
all he needed,
death
Pat. It's
and
all
lived.
he needed.
He's the only
Apparently,
who saw
he
death
did
and lived,
nothing in
too.
the Crusades
Yeah,
worth-
he's got to. What do you mean he's got to entertain?
worth anything.
Entertain the truth.
No, I murdered a lot of non-Christians for
Actually, in the Crusades, they also murdered a lot of Christians too. It was a good time.
Yeah. A lot of just people murdered for
A lot of
just
confusion.
There's a lot of
for
confusion.
reasons.
Yeah, that's some good times.
The Vietnam.
Yeah,
The
do you think-
1300s?
Like a version, I think that is interesting.
Like a
maybe is that like our
version.
night. Yeah, that's right. That I heard for the very first time. That maybe our knight came back with the plague. Like when we meet him at the beginning, it is like you're dying, and that's why death is here.
And you're
And
killing
you're gonna,
everyone
like-
you're with.
He's like,
yeah.
let me spread this a
Yes.
little bit.
Yeah, no,
But you're gonna keep stretching it out. But they don't. It's not
it's not
like
not
you gotta
obvious.
really
yeah.
reach for that.
But that's
Yeah.
what I thought right away when they came across the dead body. I'm like, oh, so now you guys are literally just spreading death everywhere you go. That was my
Yeah.
interpretation from the beginning. And then I started reading other
Or
people's
like
stuff.
he
and I'm
knows
like,
that's where he's gonna become,
I think I was
and so he
really
doesn't tell him.
I think I was really dismissive of the plague, despite the fact that it was
Well, they didn't-
raging
I mean, they
everywhere around them.
talked about
Everyone
it,
was dying.
but we didn't see it.
I buy that they all died of it in the end. Like the dance was fine. Like sure, you all had the plague now.
yeah.
But
Well, I think.
but
kind
then
of your
also
point
the
earlier,
family
Steph,
would have had the plague, and they
Yeah.
don't.
you would think so, but maybe they were immune. They were spared. It felt like there was a ignorance to the plague in the people we saw generally,
Yeah.
right? Because they hadn't seen people with the plague. Really, it seemed like,
Yeah.
and so I think there wasn't. It's like, oh, that sounds real bad, right? I think there was this, cognitive dissonance the village we met had about the
Sounded
plague.
fancy. Cognitive dissonance. That's nice.
Yeah.
Spell it.
Wrote that down earlier. So say it.
No,
And
for
so
sure.
there is this weird casualness about it, and then the only guy we see get it is
The real bad
Ravel
guy.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. Because then why
So-
why
Well,
show
it
him
hadn't
die of
struck
it?
that town. It seemed like they were
Yeah,
saying
it
it's
hadn't got
coming
there
up
yet.
this coast. You want to go this way or this way? Like it's not here yet.
Because I don't really know.
Except that we brought it, maybe.
Yeah, except
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe
that's like we could read into that, and then you're like, oh, they murdered that town because now Ravel has it. Who else has
Right.
it? I don't know. It's
Well, he
just
was
a
out in the
weird
woods.
movie.
Yeah.
The one thing I just have to go back to, though, nothing was like this before it. Nothing was like it before. And this is the part that's so hard to watch it in 2023 because everything is like it now. Everything.
What do you mean? What are you talking about?
All of the things that we think are ridiculous are because they've been homaged so many times. From 19 like we've grown up watching. I've watched Monty Python and the Holy Grail more than any other movie. So watching this can't help but bring out me thinking about ridiculous things. So it doesn't really give this movie a chance. Or the other movie, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Not even Excellent Adventure, but Bogus Journey.
Oh, that Death looks
Death
the
looks
same.
same, exactly,
Yeah.
and is making the same sort of thing. And because Death isn't even that scary, he's kind of goofy. He's kind of like this, like he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come get Jen. Like
He's kind of like a weasel. Like you're a little comedic.
You know what?
I know you're the bad guy, but you're slithery and
if Max von Sydow played the devil, the Death, I think that'd have been scarier.
sure.
Oh yeah.
Right? That would have been like, Then he could have played Death and Jesus. Amazing.
I mean, imagine though if our night was comedic, right? If that was
I'm telling you, that's darn. I thought the squire should have been the knight because he was kicking more ass. He was killing people. He was defending people. What did our knight do? Nothing.
about.
He enjoyed the strawberries and milk.
And he played chess.
milk.
Worst
Like a weirdo.
knight ever. John's is the true knight.
Oh yeah, it definitely felt like in the Crusades, Johns did all the work.
Oh,
Sure.
for sure.
Max von Sydow.
Although-
When he's always
you know,
rolling his
we're
eyes,
God,
at
and-
least in the beginning, at the night too. He's
When he
like,
kept doing the, like-
whatever.
Yeah.
that weird little hissy mouth
Yeah.
thing you did.
Yeah.
It was like, what's
Oh,
that?
and even the conversation with the painter is John's
Yeah.
making fun of
Yeah.
it back and forth. Like he's obviously like He's Ingmar Bergman's voice.
Igmar.
Ingmar.
He is the voice
Not
of reason
Ingrid.
of him arguing back and forth. Like that's the voice. Like you said, it's the Shakespearean talking to the, because that's the thing that Ingmar
he's the Puck of the whole thing.
Ooh, nice.
He's
Ooh,
Puck.
high five on that one. Yeah, a little Midsummer's Night Dream. Okay, that's pretty good.
He's Puck.
Yeah.
He's
Now we're
like brought
cooking.
the like comic relief. He's telling the story. He's bringing all the pieces together.
He's a little rapey. I mean, yeah, that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
A little threatening.
I mean, there's also like the more modern version would be he would be talking to the audience, right?
Sure.
Like my knight is very serious, and he's going through some stuff, and like like it would be more
Deadpool?
that or something. Yeah, except
Not as funny.
not Deadpool, but you know what I mean. Like just
I
don't know. There's
I still go
more
back to the
Fleabag or something.
I
Right?
still go back to the Brad Pitt
Right.
example. Like he's still like the just off the main character, gets stuff done, or shoot, even actually Brad Pitt in the Leonardo DiCaprio movie too.
It's also kind of the whole thing's kind of Don Quixote-esque
Yes,
in a way,
but it's
too.
that's on purpose though. That's also because they do make reference of that as well. Like this is this quest of nothing,
Oh,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he's off to fight dragons.
Yes.
Of
Tilted windmills.
existential
Yes.
thought.
That's very
Yeah.
good. Pat's so defeated by this
So
movie.
are you exhausted?
You
Is
just
it
don't seem like-
exhausting for you?
It's so funny. This is
I was so disappointed in this movie, I think.
That's
there's
funny.
stuff I like about it, but I think because I looked up like nothing. And I'm very aware of Max von Sydow, and Ingmar Bergman is a name I've heard a billion times. I know nothing else. And so it's the Seventh Seal, and the narration at the beginning is like, oh, stuff's bad. We start with what looks like dead bodies on the beach, and they're just sleeping real rough in the rocks.
It's true. I thought they were
And
dead
you're
too.
like-
I thought it was like a
For sure,
flashback.
the
Oh,
squire
okay.
I thought was dead. I was like,
I'm
what?
not dead
And then-
yet.
Yeah. And then we jump to the minstrel
happy.
group, and then you're like, what is this movie I'm watching? And
Yeah.
it was like there was funny bits and like moments, but then I'm like, oh, I kind of wanted the thing that was like, we're gonna like really dig into end of the world and what is gonna happen to us after stuff.
Yeah.
Which
And it was kind of like that's what
Yeah.
the knight was doing, but we don't really get into that.
No.
That's
No.
the knight's internal journey, and occasionally he talks about it, but he's just kind of whiny,
Yeah,
emo.
and in the end, he's satisfied with the like very moderate amount of do-gooding that
Yeah, he's
he
like,
did.
I did kind of an okay thing.
Yeah,
so he's Luke Skywalker.
sure.
He's whiny. Doesn't really
Little bit.
doesn't
A little bit.
barely saves the day. Like
Except he didn't. At least Luke learned to use his lightsaber. The knight didn't
Hey,
do anything heroic.
he learned how to knock over chess pieces
with
to
his,
let
with
the
his big cloak.
three get away.
Yeah.
I also thought there was this big setup to like how clever he was going to be
Right.
with death, and it kind of felt like, oh, you're an idiot. Like, why are you telling the priest?
Yeah. Oh, I got this sweet move. Oh, I didn't even
And-
look
and-
over
oh,
at
yeah.
you. And oh, you're not a
Mine-
priest. You're the
So
guy.
Also, what was his thing? My knights and my bishops or something? And it's like, yeah, everyone knows you can use all your pieces. Like, what did you give up? Like,
a
what?
sweet
How does that
move.
strategy now? Oh no! Now he knows I was going to use my knights.
Yeah.
It's like then death would have been an idiot. I don't know. It just became this weird, like,
Yeah,
It was
they
setting
must
up
not
to
have
be
been
this
very good at
clever-
chess, either one of them.
yeah. It felt set up to be this clever, like, I'm challenging death over like the whole point of mortality or something.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, well, now he's going to beat me. Whoops, I just knocked over my pieces, and I don't remember where they were. And it's like, that's the
Oh, it's
fifth
so
grade
funny.
move.
Yeah.
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 So it just kind of left me, like, I was honestly like the end scene where they're all like, they all see death and they're all like, kind of giving him honor, and like that scene vibe wise, even with the wisecracking that was in the midst of it, was like, oh, this movie, I'm into this movie.
Yeah.
But you didn't get much of that movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just was all over the place.
Yeah, there's a couple different movies happening, not just storylines. But I don't know. I found myself enjoying the fact that it jumped from vibe, like mood to mood. Yes, the existential was very low on the from what the movie started out as, and you're thinking, oh, this is very going to be dark, and it's all going to be about him trying to cheat death, and what does it all mean? And there's very little of there's not a lot of it. It's, I'd say 15% maybe is what that is actually about. The rest
More
is
bark,
kind of
no bite.
Yeah. But I still enjoyed like the language, the banter, not the music. The music was rubbish, but
That's funny.
like there's so much of it that I did enjoy. Yeah, it's not super cohesive. But at the same time it sparked all of these parodies and
Oh, yeah. No,
I mean, I appreciate it in the fact that we wouldn't have had so many things if it
we
wasn't for
wouldn't have
this. And I
any
found
of
it was
those
fairly
movies.
easy to watch. I mean,
oh
It
yeah.
was.
I was never bored.
I
Never
was
bored.
kind of pleased to find out that
Yeah.
it wasn't as dark as it appeared.
Yeah, and let's
in
be
the
honest.
beginning.
As good as
You put Max von Sydow on the
Oh,
front of
you're good.
anything.
You're good.
You're like, this is terrifying.
This is interesting.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
with some black and white
Yeah.
with some harsh
Let's-
lighting. You're
This
like,
can't
whoa,
be
this is
good.
gonna be
Let's
crazy.
go
Yeah.
back to the movie we're
And it wasn't crazy.
comparing to it and
Maybe
realize
that's the problem. If it hadn't been the front picture,
that's true.
would you have been as disappointed?
Maybe not. Okay, so let's compare it back to Joan of Arc.
Mm-hmm.
Halfway through Joan of Arc, I'm like, okay, she's crying again. It got a little heavy on the like, I get
Oh,
it.
for
This
sure.
is so. I have to say, as a movie that's somewhat modern because it's 57, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's
Very modern.
very modern for 1957 as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is and obviously, like everyone talks about this, it's the nod to the uncertainty of a Cold War nuclear holocaust. Like that's what everyone is like saying.
Yeah, end times.
Vibes. Max is freaked out about it, and this is him kind of dealing with it. Totally get it. So that's that character. I think that character of Max's is every hippie and pre-hippie
Sure.
whining about like, what's it all mean? What's the point of it all? We're all going to die anyways. Like that's a very real person in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
But like, let's throw a lot of humanity into
Right.
this. Let's, throw some real situations that are not about that. And let's kind of make fun of it a little or
Yes.
make light of it. Like my wife
you
ran off.
think-
I have no idea where my wife is.
Did you think there was something to who ended up dying that we should read into? Like you could argue the husband and wife, the juggler and his Yoff and I forget the wife's name,
Mia.
and the baby. Like they're innocent, right? Like they're
100%.
truly these
They're
innocent
truly
people.
the innocent ones. Yeah.
Everyone else, I mean, I don't know what the mute girl did, but and the wife.
She'll never tell.
But you could argue like, the blacksmith and his wife have stuff, and the knight and the squire have done stuff.
They've seen
There's
things.
a
They've
little bit of,
done
like-
stuff. Yeah.
It's curious. I mean, it's like it, but it's not really that. It wasn't like
It felt like
people
if it
deserve to
was
die or
that.
don't deserve it.
No, it felt like if it was that, it was the night.
Sheep go to heaven. Goats go to hell. So I was
Thank you for the
thinking.
cake
You're welcome.
reference.
I was thinking about that also because like the innocent versus not innocent. But I remember, what was your reaction when the mute girl said it is finished?
I was kind of delighted that she felt relieved in a way. Or that's how I read it. Like she's had a life of suffering, and she's like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like,
This is
take me away.
fine. Let's do this.
Good. I was just
Yeah.
like,
And,
really?
she
You're
seems-
ending with the same thing Jesus said? Okay,
That's
pushing
kind of
this.
a
I got a little.
yeah.
I literally rolled my eyes. I'm so
Oh, sure.
cynical.
Well,
I'm
Sure.
so bad.
Sure.
But no, I
I mean,
think
this
that's
is all
you had a
biblical,
much
too.
better.
She
you had
was
a much better
resigned
reaction.
and said, yeah, it was more like this.
Which is the Jesus of it all, too, right? Like,
Sure.
Accepting the fate. And for her, to me, it shaded her entire life for me.
In character, yeah.
Like that, we knew nothing about her, right? Except that maybe someone she knew was dead.
And she's
But
I'm gonna
also,
try
she
to
was
solve her.
willing to like go be a cook for this jerk who's threatened to rape her.
Can we
Yeah.
talk about how pretty she was? Jeez Louise.
she was
so
not a
pretty.
A lot of,
bad-looking lady.
Swedish.
Both of the ladies
Swedish
were very
blondes.
good looking.
Yeah.
Not the Lisa, sorry.
No, Lisa was not. Sorry. Rest
You're
in
kind
peace.
Yeah, she's
She's a good character, though. A great character, especially to that.
she's a great catch for Bog or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
Shoot. You're playing
What was
into
his
the
name?
movie.
Plog.
Bog.
Weren't you
What a
going to
good
name your first son Plog, Pat?
Too many people had it.
Yeah.
Plog
my husband
Pat.
said he wanted the one syllable name.
Most
I could have done plog.
popular name. And the cast names are
Oh, incredible.
pretty wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
They're amazing.
We got a Gunner, we got an Anders, a Bertel,
Banked.
an Inga, a Maud, a
BB.
BB.
Mm-hmm.
It's good stuff.
Inga. That's a
Mini
little
Gunners,
too.
actually.
Yeah.
And then Max von Sydow. Like, that's a top 10 name.
Max
Ulf Johansson. Yes.
That is Jack Slater.
Uncredited.
But yeah,
Bummer.
Sorry, Ulf.
but I think, like, I would have liked more. Again, I guess I'm asking for it to be one of two different movies than it was.
You want
One
it
where
to
it's
be
just
what it was
more,
promised as.
more comedic or way
More
more
existential.
like, let's dig into revelations and get more biblical and,
Really feel
Sure.
the.
or,
Yeah.
but yeah, just be more serious. Because also, I expected this to be way more snobby than I would argue it is.
Yes.
It's snobby to me because they chose to film it in black and white in 1957.
Right.
But
also
like,
this, yes, like
On-
the cinematography.
Thank you.
they're
We haven't
only
even
out
talked
there-
about this yet.
They're
The
only
cinematography.
out anywhere at the beginning and at the end.
It's so good.
Everywhere else is on whatever.
Can
green
we talk
screen.
about the framing of the cinematography for just a half a second?
Sure.
Of
One half.
every-
Oh, we're
Dang it.
finished.
Moving on.
You have to ask for more time.
Okay, next time. The way they frame the faces on so many scenes where it was 1, 2, back, forward. It was just every time. Like, I
Yeah.
loved it so much. I'm like, I want to make films that have these moments where they turn and look and you see a perfect in the background, perfect to the side. Even the final scenes where they just had, they're all, I loved them so much. So there's so many, not quite as like square as Ozu, but dang, it was cool. I really had those moments. I'm like, this is so
It was very
rad.
well framed. Very, very.
Yeah.
So that,
But there was weirdness. I don't know if it was how lighting worked at the beginning shots where it's like they're in the foreground and it's like the ocean or clouds in the background. It felt like green screen somehow. Like,
It was.
Well-
it was only
So-
the beginning. The only on the beach where
because
they
they
were
filmed
actually
on location and they had to deal with all the freaking light that it's just hard to
Yeah.
film around. Like, he's obviously filming
okay,
on
so
location.
that was going on.
Yeah,
where
like
they were
that's.
back projecting or rear projection or something
Oh no,
in those shots.
no, they were on the beach. I'm saying, like, I think they were on location because this was filmed in like
they were
3 weeks.
only on the beach and only at the end where they were doing the dance. That was the only time where they were actually out in the world on
And that's
a real
hard to
location.
deal with.
Everything else, like that one spot,
Yeah.
I can tell what you're talking about where there's like
Yeah.
the whole outline of Max.
Just anytime
And that
they,
I think was totally green screen.
even when there was a weird shot. He's walking up and all the rocks are in kind of the foreground. And I was like, is he like composited terribly into this until he got closer to the foreground and it was like
Right.
the rocks moved. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
I guess he was somewhere.
I was confused there too because I was like, is he just that bad at walking or like
It was odd.
what's
But from a cinematography perspective, I was more engaged by Joan of Arc, I think.
Yeah, but Joan of Arc, again, we're comparing literally the best of silent era. Like,
Yeah, but that was
well, also
30
Joan
years
of Arc
before.
was inside.
No, but and
one
Joan of Arc
room that they
was
made
very
for
limited,
it.
very limited. You had no shots where you had, like, you couldn't do
Scenery.
horses. There's no there wasn't horses. There was no scenery. There's no.
Yeah.
It was very limited to this small facial whatever else, and that's why I think it worked in that era because of the limitations of the technology. But 57, and this guy was very heavily influenced by our boy Kurosawa. Like, he wanted to be like Kurosawa-esque in a lot of the things he did. So obviously he's going to have those scenes where you see all of the flagellating people and the big fire in the back and so you still going to have those influences. So you
And
couldn't
I think
do
in
Joan of
that
Arc.
they did a great job.
Oh, I thought they did a great job, and I thought
It was when they had like a forest in the background, or you're up in the
right.
meadow or on the hillside. Like,
you
it just didn't.
because
work.
remember when they did that in the silent era? It's called Nosferatu. That's what it looked like back then. So let's just remember that. Because show me a movie in that era, because the closest we got is Buster Keaton. I said it right.
Yay.
And think about
Not
that,
Buster
what
Keaton.
that looked like, and then go to Kurosawa, who was a master in it, but still didn't look like Joan of Arc. And then tell me, so really you should be comparing Seven Samurai to this movie. And that's what you should be comparing.
Well, and I would say, I mean, yes, that's a good point. Seven Samurai's framing and composition beats this one to me, but it's good. I think the other thing, this is 4x3,
Yep.
right?
OG.
Seven Samurai was not 4x3, was it?
Oh, now you gotta look this up. I think it was. I don't know how it could.
I think it felt like everything was kind of like compressed
Research
to me in
team.
this movie, where Seven Samurai felt a little bit more vast, and maybe I'm totally just misremembering, but
Well, I
yeah.
think also
it was really good.
yeah. I do think it's also this because they had so many headshots where it was literally like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
As Kurosawa, like
That's where I loved. There was some lighting stuff I loved where people were coming in and out of darkness, especially that last scene when the girl stands up, and then we kind of see all of our characters come in
Yep.
to their spots. It was like,
Yep.
that's cool.
Yeah. And even
there's great stuff for
the
sure.
confession scene was stupid, but it looked gorgeous.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Yeah.
And the
There's
also
a lot more interesting, like canted angles and kind of interesting framing on stuff that could have been less interesting. But it also felt like a small movie in a way, even though they're out on set sometimes.
They
it
had
felt
a super
kind of
low budget.
constrained.
yeah, it didn't really. what did you do, like,
150,000, I
5
think,
weeks
was
or
the budget.
something
Yeah, in a
crazy.
short timeline.
just
And this was
crazy.
after he had a successful movie.
Oh, and by the way, he's still doing stage productions while he's filming this movie. Like, all the people who are on this movie with him are also performing live on Sweden's Broadway at the same time. Like, so when Max von Sydow talks about it, he's like, oh yeah, we were just like literally a family because we do everything together. We would do this. And he's like, I don't know how he did it, but we'd shoot these movies and then we'd go and then we'd premiere this show and then we'd premiere another show and then we'd shoot this next movie.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. 50 movies. I was looking at his filmography. One year, there was like 4 or 5 movies in 1 year.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's just...
Well, in just the span of Max von Sydow's like acting was like 70 years that he was active.
Yeah, and it's crazy because he said no to so many good parts before he took on the Jesus part.
That's crazy.
That's the
to
crazy
me.
part to me because especially later when he took on things like A Strange Brew and Flash
Right.
Gordon.
I'll do
He's
the
like, well,
Brewmaster.
I'm sold out now, but man, I wonder why I like Strange Brew, man. I still think it kicks above his weight class.
That's to me, that's one of those things. Like he plays it so straight in Strange
So
Brew that
straight.
it makes the rest of the movie great.
Amazing.
In this one, I feel like he's kind of doing the same thing, but like it's not as broad outside of him.
It was his first
I don't know,
freaking
it's just-
movie. Give him a break, buddy.
No, he's great. I think the movie that he was in doesn't quite capitalize on what he was doing in a way that I think it could have.
It's just so
I
hard.
think I had expectations. I wanted highbrow, snobby, Swedish cinema,
Yes.
and what I got was like not too far removed from Strange Brew and Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Right.
So
And part of the reason he turned down certain roles too was because Bergman was like in his ear and said like, no, you shouldn't do this. And like even one of the ones I think it was The Greatest Story Ever Told. He told him, I don't think you should do this, and he did it anyway.
Oh, that's funny. So
It was like, I don't think it was the best.
I got a hot take for you
His
guys.
choices.
Got a hot take for you now after hearing all your hogwash.
Or nonsense.
Rubbish.
Snobby movies can be fun to watch. And I feel like people think that snobby movies have to be painful. And I feel like you're hating on this movie because it wasn't painful enough and it wasn't trying to, because now I feel movies do that all the time. Like,
I felt
want
like
you
it
to feel
was-
bad about yourself.
I feel
And
like
that's
it
why it's a
was-
snobby movie.
Yeah.
But this one does not. It's playful. It asks hard questions.
Agreed.
And it has a goofy thing.
Agreed. I just feel like it was misrepresented in the
World.
presentation of the movie. I think
Agreed.
anywhere you look and you see that picture of Max in the black and white and you're like, this is dark, this is deep, and even the description
really
of the movie,
Swedish existentialism.
the
Everyone says
description
that.
of the movie, you're like, this is not what I was expecting. I think that's the thing, is it just misrepresents itself.
I agree. I totally
And
agree.
it sets you up to think, oh, this is one thing and it isn't. Yes, it is snobby, very snobby.
Well,
I still
and
felt
we're
like it
talking about-
delivered, but I just felt like it didn't represent itself correctly.
We're talking about the Crusades, medieval culture, and the Black Death. And you're like, I'm like,
Also
forgive
not
me for
historically
expecting
accurate.
something
Really not
that's a little
historically.
serious.
Not
It's
historical.
not accurate at all.
This might as well be Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
Yeah, and I liked it. I wanted it to be
did you?
more, and I didn't want it to be painful.
You wanted
I
it to be
it
one
to
way
be
or the
deeper.
other. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be deeper. It felt honestly pretty shallow to me
You wanted more
because
layers.
the comedy kind of lightened it.
More like a Shrek.
Comedy kind of brought it up to be like a
Onions
very
have layers.
approachable movie.
I'm not a
Ogres
cake.
have layers.
Yeah.
We're listening.
More layers.
Yes, ogres have layers. Onions have layers. I get it. But you know what I mean? Like, it just felt like it could have been something that I was like, wow, like,
Yeah.
what a movie to watch.
Sure.
And it didn't have to be
Yeah.
painful. It just was like, oh, but it kind of just felt like a movie to me. And so that's where I'm confused about why, even for the time, because we've seen better cinematography, better performances before and after it, in Sweden, you know, like in black and white, in silent. And so this one to me, it's like, well, I just don't see why this stood out to people so much as like this like snobby, you gotta see, you know, you don't know Swedish cinema until you watch Ingmar Bergman and Max von Sydow and The Seventh Seal.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
I feel like maybe I think maybe at the time to people, it delivered a lot of things. Like, oh, it had everything. It had a little bit of this. It had a little bit of that.
And maybe that's the thing I'm missing is for a movie of like this caliber to play so much with tone, maybe that is more revolutionary than I can give it credit for because I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I
willing
wasn't
to
aware
give
of
it.
what culture was doing at the
Yeah, I'm willing to give it that assumption that it delivered to people in ways that they hadn't had, like so many different ways that it appealed to them, maybe.
I also just have to think about like, how far removed from Joan of Arc we were, and that not that many people have probably seen Joan of Arc in 1957.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like that, we were talking the end of World War II, not too far removed. You
Pretty
still,
far.
well, pretty far, but far enough that you still remember.
Yeah.
Like everyone's still alive and in their 50s.
Yeah.
And you don't really have, and everything else at that time from the American cinema is musicals, happiness,
Very light,
American
fluffy.
Dream, and you have very few like existential crisis movies going on in 1957.
Let's still be fluffy, but let's also Black Death.
Yeah, and it's very not light and fluffy if you think about it, not in terms of 1920. What year was it? 27? That was Joan of Arc?
Mm-hmm.
Hey.
Yeah, so after the World War I, before World War II.
Yeah.
Like I think we have to realize this changed international cinema to make it accessible to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like this literally was the movie. This is the
was
Yojimbo. This is Kurosawa's Yojimbo.
I could definitely see how appealing it would have been in the States.
Yeah.
For a foreign film, this is.
Yeah. Hey, that was kind of good.
Yeah. Like I followed it all the way.
Yeah. And it's still they always say this is as essential as the French New Wave, because the French New Wave movement's like so snobby. Thinking about like Breathless, where it's just like, okay, you're just trying to be snobby for snobby's sake and Breathless, it feels like.
Sure. Yeah.
Art school film.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So like this one was not actually, I don't think he was trying to be an art school film. He was just trying to make a film.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to make it fun.
I wrote a story and I want to make a movie out of it.
Yeah.
Like I had expectations about that too. Like this is. I mean,
if there was
a bad comparison,
disclaimer at the bottom,
not French New Wave.
It's not as snobby as you think it's going to be.
Well, that's
like to me, it's like, you know, this is Spielberg doing Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like that's talking about some deep stuff,
sure,
but it's in a package that is pretty approachable.
Mm-hmm.
Forrest Gump.
You know what I mean? Like it's not that snobby, I guess, right? Like it's a movie about a topic at a time where maybe that was kind of pushing things. Like people don't want to think about death at the movies, and you made a movie about death.
If this was in English, it wouldn't be a snobby. I'll give you that. Because it's the same thing with Asian films. Asian films have these goofy, kooky parts that if they were in English, we'd be like, this is rubbish. Like, I'm not, I just.
They have very deep undertones.
Deep undertones. Because, like, you know what's more serious than this movie? Spirited Away. Spirited Away was more dark.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And had
Definitely
more, like,
more
you're
dark.
dealing with, like, hard things the whole way through.
Yeah.
And it's literally a teen movie.
Yeah.
And it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
So.
And it's dark and it's got all the layers.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
And Pat's still a hater. What?
Yeah.
Freaking animator. Doesn't even like good animation.
Hates us.
Disappointing.
Those backgrounds are great.
So I think this is one of those groundbreaking movies because of the influence, similar to it's hard because a lot of these movies, like Alien, like The Shining, are referenced so much, but it's hard to say they're snobby, even though they are very snobby, because they changed everything. And they changed the way we look at cinema. They changed a bit how cinema can be made and how you can interchange it and how you can make fun of it.
Well, yeah. I think some movies you have to appreciate the snobbiness, not because the movie standalone is snobby, but because of what happened after. Like what it turned
it's very
into.
interesting. It's interesting how much this movie clearly influenced other people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That on its own is this kind of fascinating. Like, oh, a lot of people watch this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, a lot.
You know?
So I really want to watch some more Ingmar Bergman movies because people love him in the snobby film community. Like,
yeah, what's up with the
adore
strawberries,
him. Like,
you guys?
they're
wild.
I was looking up, what was it, the French list of the top 10 movies of every year. I forget what it was called, but it's like a very snobby list. And it's always got
snobby list.
Godard on it. But Ingmar Bergman's on there every freaking year. Like, it's these crazy snobby movies, and he's always on the list every time he comes out with a movie. So there must be something about it that makes him snobby, even though he's accessible. And it's very hard because, like, when we think snobby, we don't think accessible. And is that a wrong way to think?
We'll figure it out.
I think that is a common way to interpret it. And what we're learning is that's not always true.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's true. Sometimes these movies are a thing you got to deal with.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Nosferatu.
Yeah.
Yeah. And other times you're like, oh, okay, yeah, these are just movies, people, just humans trying to put together a story that engages an audience. And you go, yeah, everyone's doing these days.
Yeah. No, I was very...
I did like it. I don't want to make it seem like I don't like the movie, but I felt like I came at it in the wrong way.
Right.
Yeah.
I wish I came at it just with less expectation.
Yeah, same.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
I think that because every time I looked at it, like why this movie is so influential, it's actually really watchable. Like that was on every single list, is how watchable this is and how fun it is, and how it's not your classic snobby movie.
Sure.
Like all the lists talked about, like, oh, this is actually funny and hilarious. But it's still snobby.
Sure.
And so that was but because it still is Ingmar Bergman's way of dealing with his overbearing clergy father and his question of death, which are very big issues that everybody deals with, but it still is a fun, goofy movie as well, which we don't usually like to put those two things together.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. I think that's it. But so
did it.
Is this on your snobby level? Where would you put this movie at? Where would this be?
If you're American?
Well, we have to be because we don't have many choices.
I think still pretty high on the get you to watch it level. Like, to me, people are not seeking out Seventh Seal Ingmar Bergman movies.
Right.
Right. Like,
I'd still say it's
so in that way there's
higher.
There's a barrier to entry of like even thinking of watching this movie that I don't think you should have.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's still kind of snobby,
right.
But watching it, but it's not because the movie's snobby. It's just like the barrier to entry is high.
It looks like a 9, but it's really a 6.5.
Yeah,
I would say, or a 7.5. I'd put it like above what was the Western we watched with Clint Eastwood?
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I'd put it above Good, Bad, the Ugly. I'd put it above The Searchers too, more snobby than The Searchers, just because John Wayne is so big. Mm-hmm. So I'd put it above John Wayne. I'd put it above all those ones.
And those are in color.
Yeah. I would put it below like Hard Boiled. which is well, I don't know though. The problem is Hard Boiled is so new, but it did change a whole genre of things too. So I'd put it closer to that Hard Boiled, above what was the sultry one we watched with David Fincher?
Blue Velvet.
Blue Velvet, yeah, above Blue Velvet.
David Lynch.
Lyncher, whatever.
Lynch
whatever. He directed Aliens 3.
We need
it's
the
fine.
other. We have the counter, for getting bonus points, and then we have the counter. Of
I know I'm negative,
the wrong name.
and you guys are above. So I haven't said Buster Douglas yet, so we're doing good.
Yeah.
I would say it's below all the silent films, of course. Like, even Charlie Chaplin, I'd put above this.
Lynn.
Yeah, it's up there. It's
Ding.
but it's hard because like it's so influential. It's so influential because even Citizen Kane, which is arguably the best movie of all time, isn't that snobby. It wouldn't be on my top snobby list.
Yeah.
Because really, the snobby movies are like, nobody liked this, but I like this, so it's good.
You don't understand.
You don't understand it.
Oh,
yeah.
I think I think the other thing that you kind of brought up at the beginning of this movie is like, what is Snob?
Yeah.
And why is it snobby?
Mhm.
And I don't know that I know the answer to that. I think it's snobby depending on how you talk about it, and if you make it like, oh, you haven't seen this.
Well,
And
this
to
gets
me,
pretty
that
high
does get
marks on
into,
that.
like,
Yeah.
But it gets into like, you haven't seen it because it's a freaking slog, you know, and it feels horrible to watch, right? Like,
Right.
but that's not this. It's just you haven't seen it because it's Swedish and in black and white and from 1957, not because it's
Right.
like
Hard to watch.
inaccessible.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it still goes pretty high on the snobby just for that, because it isn't watched that much.
Yeah.
Even though it's not that hard to watch. So there you
I
go.
agree.
Yeah. Okay, drinks. What's our drinks for this one? Because it's this one. Okay, I was thinking about this before, which I know is more than you two have done. Guilty. This is an enjoyable drink by all, but not super. But not like that. It's like kind of snobby, but not as snobby as we thought. So I'm gonna go with like not champagne, but like a sparkling white wine. It's not quite the French wine, but everyone still kind of enjoys it. So it's not like so expensive that like no one can get it, because actually when people can actually buy this one, so you don't have to buy like the super. It's not Dom Perignon. It's like the cheaper champagne brand. There you go.
Okay.
Because it's still enjoyable. It's like to everyone. It doesn't have to be like an IPA. It doesn't have to be like a lager.
Like a solid German beer.
There we go.
Like
I'd say Swedish, but who knows what they drink?
Yeah.
Well, I just looked that up.
Yeah,
So I'm
thank
going to
you.
give a shout out to Niels Oskar Brewery,
Obviously, it's Niels.
which produces
Classic.
some pale ales, the IPAs, and
Oh,
stuff.
I changed my
It's one of
answer.
those.
I changed my answer. Go ahead, Mar. I'll tell you my answer in a second.
Winner. I don't know. What? I'm trying to think of one. Oh, jeez. Research team.
Obviously, Elsinore beer would be my beer of choice.
Yeah, did we notice that they were going to an Elsinore? Did anybody mention that in the movie that they're going to an Elsinore?
Oh, boy.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
They're going to Elsinore
They're
in the
going
movie.
to Elsinore, but they decide not to because the plague hit it.
Yeah.
Like they were going to do their next show.
Okay, wait a minute.
In
Was Train
Elsinore.
Brew
In
referencing the Seventh Seal?
Oh,
Sorry.
please say yes. Please
Sorry.
say yes. Oh, we're looking this crap up right now. Sorry,
Yeah.
listener. You got to deal with that. Pat, pick your drink while we're looking this up.
I gave you I'm going to give you an IPA from Niels Oskar Brewery. It's hard to get, but you'll probably like it.
It's not that hard to
You
get.
know,
A nice
Well, if you're in Sweden,
polliner.
it's probably easy.
A nice polliner. Polliner. That's what I would
so
have picked.
funny. Polliner. No, I'm
The
sticking with
Doppelbock.
Elsinore. The Doppelbock. Doppelbocks are good.
I'd have a Doppelbock on this one.
A double, huh? So it's like a little extra alcohol.
I don't know if it's a double. It's a doppel.
It has more alcohol.
Is that double?
Yeah, it's double.
Is doppel double?
It is. Okay.
That makes sense.
Let's
Also,
see.
always interesting when languages have very similar sounding words.
More
You notice
box
that every
is
now and again?
good, right?
You'd be like, oh, I understood what that word
Yeah.
was.
That
'Cause
was
it's
also
very close to
comforting.
English.
Yeah, that was also helpful in the fact that it's a foreign film to know that the words do have some, like, every time, like, I was waiting when they'd say Jesus Christ. I was like, oh, it's very close. It's like, it's okay.
Yeah, it was like Jesus Christ or
Yeah.
something like. Oh,
Yeah, I
don't
cannot
think that's
find
stuff.
if it's actually a reference to.
Yeah,
Seventh
they
Seal.
said it a couple of times, like, oh, we're going to go to the festival in Elsinore.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah. And I was like, really? You are? I
Yeah,
don't know
that's
that
so
it's
great.
a reference.
well, you know, we might not know.
It's just a coincidence.
No, I think it is. Well, oh man, they do talk about it, but not. It's not for sure. But that it's gotta be. Why
it
else?
would be a weird coincidence.
It would be a weird coincidence. Yes, they
I'm-
do talk
I was
about.
trying to
Okay,
look
so
it
they
up.
do talk. So
I wasn't lying.
They talk about it, but they don't. It's not. It says they point out the same thing. The name of the brewery in the film is the Elsinore Brewery of Existential, who played in the brewmaster in this movie, is also the film of the Seventh Seal. In that film, the squire was heading toward the village of Elsinore beside not to go because the plague was there. So yes, they do.
And there was
reference
beer.
it. And there was
out of.
There was
very
beer.
leaky kegs.
There was beer. Elsinore's my choice. I change everything.
I wanted Elsinore.
And the best part is the only reason Max von Sydow did that movie is because his son was a fan of Bob and Doug McKenzie.
Oh.
That's for free, folks.
That's awesome.
for
That's
free.
delightful.
It's so
That's
great.
delightful.
That's the same reason
Thank
that.
you for the fun fact.
You're welcome.
This is why you wait till the end of the episode, everybody.
Folks.
Don't you skip out
No.
because
Hang
we
on.
save some good nuggets
We've
till
got
the very end.
We've got something
Bitter
to say
end.
here, people.
Nuggets. Just say nuggets again.
The bitter and hoppy end.
The
Nugget.
happy end. That's right. All right, folks. This should be on your to watch list if you want to be a true movie snob. Because despite Patrick's curmudgeons, this is a good one.
That's why you bring me.
I know. That's
Yeah.
true. I know. We need a
Contrarian.
naysayer.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Can't be all positive. Can't be all sunshine and rainbows like me.
like Mariah.
Yeah.
Mariah Sunshine
That's what
and
makes me a snob within the snobbery.
That's right.
There you
Right?
go.
I don't like stuff.
Yeah.
No, that's right. You can't like stuff
Bring
to be a
it
true
down
snob.
a notch.
Awesome. Okay, this was I liked it. I liked it because it was very surprising. I would have to say this is a
It
very
surprised us all.
surprising
We were all
movie.
surprised.
All surprised.
In different ways.
I
And
didn't know
Good,
what the heck it was
bad,
gonna be.
and indifferent. Yeah. Okay, well, guys, thanks for listening. This has been another episode of How to Be a Movie Snob, where we talked about the amazing, the doozy Seventh Seal. That's our first Ingmar Bergman.
Ingmar Bergman.
That's that too. And Max van Sydow. Wow, I can't pronounce anything right now. Anyways,
Don't worry about it.
keep
Just
watching.
right now, though.
Learn how to pronounce stuff, unlike me. And thanks for listening, guys. Until next time, this is Seth.
Mariah.
Pat.
Keep watching movies.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.